There, who's there? I wonder. Say hello. Can we see Patrick? Yes, we can see Patrick. We can see some other people too.
Yes, hello everyone.
There's no everyone in the waiting room. Sorry, in between the participants. Hello.
Hello.
Good to hear from all of you. Anyone who gives voice? Anyone out there? Please report.
Hmm. Well, I first of all want to say thank you to allowing me to speak in my native tongue. I'm very appreciative of that.
I think that's partly because um, that is your native tongue, and then it's a good idea actually to talk about what we are going to talk about in the language of the origin of tutoring. But perhaps before we start, uh, yeah, I'm pushing myself to to start. David.
So Grzegorz, yeah, should we
Right.
start?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's a good moment. Let's not waste any more minutes. We
Okay,
don't have
so
a lot of time.
good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar. My name is David, and at Collegium Wratislawience, I'm responsible for our development programs. And today we have a wonderful opportunity to meet and talk with two outstanding specialists in the field of tutoring, Alison Gray and Grzegorz Grzegorczyk, um, who will lead today's conversation on dialogical teaching and tutoring in general. Uh, Alison teaches at Westminster College and the University of Cambridge. She serves as a director of studies and tutor, specializing in language, literature, and Old Testament theology. Grzegorz holds PhD in humanities from University of Gdańsk. He's a university professor and a certified tutor at Collegium Wratislawience. He also holds the qualified teacher title and has over 20 years of experience conducting specialist training. And today we are also welcomed by Robin Barden because Alison will be slightly late. And Robin also works at Westminster College, University of Cambridge, and is one of our Cambridge School of Tutors trainers. And in a moment, I will mute all microphones, but don't worry, they will be switched back on again later. And the first part of our meeting will last about 40 minutes, and it will be a conversation between Robin, Grzegorz, and then with Alison. And then we'll move to first Q&A session lasting around 15 minutes. Then for about 15 minutes, we'll do presentation of our Cambridge School of Tutors program. And at the end, there will be a second round of Q&A. So I think without further ado, Grzegorz, Robin, I think you can start.
Robin, do you mind?
Not at all.
Thank you very much. I need a word. Um, I need to know how many of you have done the tutoring program and training from Collegium Wratislawience. Oh, David has muted me. Right,
Just
sorry.
for a moment, but you can
Let
unmute. Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me repeat. We need to know how many of you have gone through the tutoring program from Collegium Wrocławiense, either the basic program or the advanced program. Can you please raise your hands? We need to know how many of you uh, present here know something about tutoring. Yeah, I remember you, Patrick. I don't know, Basha, thank you very much. Is that you? Right. Okay. So there are some people who have heard a bit about tutoring. Robin, I'm not sure if you agree with me, but when we talk about tutoring through the prism of English, hello, Alison.
Alison is here.
Yeah, through the prism of English, I mean through English and in English, it it gains a bit of a different shape and a different feel. And that is my personal experience when I first talked about tutoring to Alison, to you, Robin, and you agreed with this idea, but it was a totally new experience for me. So even if there are people here in the room who have gone through this tutoring program and who actually are experienced tutors or who are in any tutoring processes with their students or other young people, then my personal experience is that when you start talking and thinking and doing tutoring in English, it is such a different experience. And I think that we may start today from this perspective. And I would like first, Alison and Robin, I would like both of you to, if it's possible, to tell us how you understand tutoring from these two as if vantage points. What I mean is that, well, there's Cambridge, which is supervision, in fact, as far as I know. And there is tutoring, which is Oxford, and forget Oxford, Collegium Wrocławiense. Okay, and we met, right, somewhere in between, and you started carrying it through to your institution. So how do you feel that? What's your
I th
experience, your first experience of that?
I think I should let Alison talk in a minute. I'll just give her a few seconds to catch her breath because she has the
Mm, yeah.
broadest experience of certainly supervision at Cambridge,
Mm,
but also bringing it into our college experience here.
mm,
But I think for us, when we first talked to you about this, we actually had to wrestle where to fit it
mm,
in our current thinking. We had some words. We had supervision, which
mm,
Alison can tell you more about. We
mm,
had coaching, which I guess is a bit more global, but we
mm,
had this idea of executive coaching,
mm,
which is more in organizations and perhaps for CEOs. And then especially Alison and I, we had something about supporting students, which was more effusive. It was less well defined. And I think for us, the first year was trying to work out where this is different. What we do here is different, and how does that difference relate to these other areas? But as I say, Alison had more experience of me than this. So I wonder, Alison, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you. And apologies everyone that I was running late. I've been in the wilds of Buckinghamshire um, and managed to find Wi-Fi, so all is well. Um, Thank you. Yes, I had experience of supervision in Cambridge myself as an undergraduate and then as a postgraduate. And so when I heard about tutoring, I just automatically assumed that it was the Oxford version of supervising. And at least I think that's where it came out of. But my own experience of being supervised was really dependent on the supervisor. So some supervisions were fantastic. Others I didn't understand. I didn't understand why I was there. I didn't understand how it related. I didn't understand how it related to the essay that I had just written. Um, some people chose to basically give me a mini lecture one to one, which I found really puzzling. Um, and some of them were really, really helpful teachers and were interested in preparing us for the exam. Um, but I think when we started learning about the Collegium Wrocławiense and the approach there were a number of pieces that sort of fell into place for me. I think because as a supervisor myself and as a director of studies in Cambridge, I had developed my own approach to supervising. There isn't really a set way of doing things in Cambridge, and there is a little bit of training, but only enough to kind of get you started. So I think I was always interested in the students as individuals, who I was engaged with, I was encountering them, and inevitably pastoral issues came up, as they often do when you're a student. And I struggled as a supervisor. So for us, we would see a student for 6 times in a row, and they would write an essay every single time. And you had about an hour and a half if you're feeling generous, but you're only paid for an hour. And if anything personal came up, there wasn't room to deal with it. And there wasn't any sense of a holistic approach to education. So in Cambridge, if you have pastoral issues, you go to a pastoral tutor. If you have academic issues, you go to your director of studies, and then you're taught by your supervisors. And so in some ways, it's a great system because you have student support built in. Everyone has their own tutor, except that, as you all know, students will go and talk to the ones they want to talk to, not the one that they're supposed to talk to. And so as an academic supervisor, I ended up dealing with the whole person. And so encountering this idea of holistic tutoring and sort of coaching tools to help navigate some of those things just made so much more sense to me.
Let me just translate one word to our Polish colleagues who are actually in overwhelming majority here. When you say pastoral issues, what do you actually mean?
So by pastoral issues, I would say anything to do with well-being,
Yeah,
mental health,
yeah.
yeah, anything from illness to bereavement, etc.
Okay. Do you mind if I just use one Polish word to explain what you're talking about
Yes, of course.
to our Polish colleagues? So what Alison is trying to explain is that for them, for both Robin and Alison, tutoring has this opportunity or provides this opportunity to support students in this sort of developmental part of of themselves. In Polish, we call it tutoring rozwojowy. So when I went there, I mean there, that is to Cambridge. That is first you came to Wrocław, and then I went to visit you, and and we worked together with a group of people, training them as tutors. Actually, what you are saying as this pastoral motif emerged for me as a dominating issue and a dominating feature of tutoring, and I found it phenomenal because when you train Polish academics as tutors, they are first hopeful to gain these skills of guiding students in academic issues. That is how to write a paper, a diploma paper, how to prepare for exams, how to actually do research. However, in our work together, that is when we trained our group of tutors, well, we focused on those personal issues. How
Mm,
important do you think it is for us as academics to support students in this area? There are two layers of it, as if of studying, right? And I can now experience it from the perspective of my elder daughter who has just become a student, and I can see how she struggles with those two layers. I mean, academic issues and those pastoral issues, right? So, what do you think tutoring as an offer addresses, and how does it answer to students' needs, especially in those first months or first years of studying?
that's a really good question. I
Mm,
think it depends on your institution and how the institution is set up and what there's room
mm,
for, I guess.
mm,
It's interesting in the UK that this idea of holistic tutoring is beginning to spread from professional services who only deal with
mm,
students' emotional well-being and welfare towards equipping and upskilling academics to be able to be in tune with that as well. And we've seen, I don't know if it's the same in Poland, but recently there's been a massive wave of interest in relational pedagogy and compassionate pedagogy in particular, which I find fascinating because it suggests that before this we have been not doing relational or compassionate pedagogy. I imagine, yeah, there'll be a number of you in the room who will relate to that. You've been through a very uncompassionate system. But that is intriguing to me, that having had, I'm hopeful, despite the problems in the UK with underfunding for higher education, I'm hopeful that this wave is going to continue, and academics will begin to recognise the importance of their own emotional intelligence in the classroom, as well as on a one-to-one level, and how transformative that can be if they are engaging, with, to use Martin Buber's language, in I-thou rather than I-it relationships.
Yeah. Okay. Robin, I need to ask you, because the way I see you is, I mean, as a different role from Alison's role, who's more like into academic issues, right? Obviously, there are some pastoral elements in your teaching, right? But Robin, you're very, very close to students. Now, how do you sense, not even understand, but sense tutoring as a form of support in any of these two layers?
It has been revolutionary. It's a bit of a, I don't want to use that word too early, and I don't want to use it unwisely either. Fear that people will think I'm just bandering around these words for the sake of it. I have engaged. So for me, the tutoring allowed me actually to engage more with the academic side. So I came at it perhaps from the other angle, as you were suggesting. And what it meant is when I was supporting students, I could keep a focus on their academic life rather than just on their well-being, as if that was separate from what was going on, whether it's separate from an essay or if it was separate from a deadline they had. And it was incredible that what came out of that was, I mean, the students themselves, so you can see some cards behind me that actually come from these students saying that was transformative, you need to offer this to everybody. It was the understanding of the academic journey as part of life, and not separating those two things out, that I think was transformative. And some very big topics came out that they wanted to address. I tended to be working in a UK context with people who either English was a second language or third language, or they were from an academic background where they didn't have confidence in the college. And to be able to work on their goals, which often was around their academic essays and deadlines, while at the same time exploring topics around race, around language, around inclusion, around well-being, around trauma. I mean, it transformed the sessions, and we saw impact on students that we hadn't seen before. So these were students, in my context, a bit different, who are about to fall out of the system or about to fall out of higher education. They'd had their last chance, actually, because we were a pilot. So this was like, everything else has failed. Let's do
Go
this.
and see Robin.
And they've all graduated. And they're all sitting there having come through and have gone from a point where they thought, I can't do this. This is beyond me. Some would have thought I'm a failure. Some would definitely have felt a lot of shame coming from family and from themselves. That's been transformed, and they've succeeded. They've graduated. They've gone on to the jobs that they were planning to do. And so for them, and for me seeing that, bringing together life and academia just made the difference.
And I should add, actually, it's quite different, I think, from certainly the early programs for Collegium, where the tutoring program was designed for those who are in the top 10% academically. In England, the sort of the resources, if you like, are focused primarily on those who are underachieving, those who have dyslexia or ADHD, for example, and tend to require that additional support. And we've used it in our own college, so we've trained, as you know, a number of tutors who've gone on to support a variety of our students. And I think it's been interesting, as Robin said, that something that you might think was an academic problem turned out to be a psychological problem. Writer's block happens for any number of reasons, but when you discover actually from some gentle probing and questioning that it's actually about confidence, or it's about something that happened in college last week, or whatever it is, or an interaction between other students and tutors.
Now that you said that, Alison, that there's this psychological bit. Training my colleagues in different academic settings as tutors, I very often hear this one question: to what extent do we have to be psychologically minded or educated in terms of how to help people? Because what you mentioned is a very sensitive issue, right? There are institutions that help students with, let's say, dyslexia, with HDD, any symptoms that they struggle with. Now, that was revealing for me that you embraced this as academics when I met you in this training as something normal, natural. So I just wonder how this program that we all went through, that is me and partly you contributing to it, might help anyone who is interested in taking a student through a certain process. How can it be helpful for our academic teachers to become the kind of, let's say, mentors, not to say tutors, but mentors in this in these very, very sensitive issues? Don't you think it's a bit it's a bit like too far?
Hmm.
Mm.
That's really interesting. I think you need some level of self-awareness,
Uh-huh.
and that for some people comes naturally, and for others that takes a bit more work.
Mm.
I think that's perhaps why it's really helpful to have a supervisor yourself,
Mm. Mm.
so that you can talk about things and they can help you
Mm.
ask and probe questions about you if you've reacted a particular way to how a student is behaving or relating to you. I think what struck me most about some of the coaching tools is that you didn't need to be an expert. And whereas in academic supervision that's only focused on academics, you have a sense that you are the expert in the room. But I think my kind of Cambridge training always encourages you to be open to what the student comes with. Now it's really interesting. I think the reason why that has always worked in Cambridge is that usually students come with something to say. You don't get into Cambridge unless you have something to say, even if it's rubbish, but you'll come with some degree of confidence, usually at stating an argument, however poor it is. And so I think there is an openness to intellectual curiosity, intellectual imagination in the Cambridge system that I kind of brought with me. I think where coaching kind of intersects with that is that you're very much having to hold back from giving the answers. And that does mean that you can coach somebody in anything, including mental health concerns, pastoral care. You navigate those things together with the aid of some coaching tools and some coaching experience. And that was was and still is, I think, perhaps one of the most challenging things for people to get their head around. So some of our tutors contacting me and saying, help, I don't know anything about X or Y. And I'm just saying, that's okay. You don't need to be the expert. You can explore together how you'll find out more information if that's what the student is wanting. So there's a lot of letting go, I think, as academics from, I'm the sage on the stage, moving to be the guide on the side. And that for some people is a big transition.
Not only the guide, but maybe also the carer. I wonder, Robin, what you how you might comment it. But when you mentioned pastoral again, I mean, something that emerged for me as maybe something natural is that pastoral care very clearly defines what tutoring is all about. It's about a bit of guiding, as you said, a bit of being a sage, maybe not on stage, but someone who has gone through certain situations, a bit of a shepherd, a bit of a leader, a bit of a partner, and I think it all merges in the idea that we built together there in Cambridge, and that was a phenomenal experience for me. Robin, before I'll ask you to comment upon it, but you know this because I've mentioned this many times to you that when I heard that I'm there, that Piotr Kierda offered me to take part in this program, and he said, "Well, let's offer tutoring to Cambridge people." I said, "Well, it's just like carrying coals to Newcastle, right?" Using this old idiom, right? And that's useless. That's nonsense, right? But now you're saying that it's gaining as if a new momentum, even at the institution that actually invented it as one of the two and developed it.
Mm, mm.
Robin, how do you how do you remember the moment when you first heard of this idea that you will be actually trained as a tutor?
I mean, I was a little bit confused. I kept asking Alison questions because it was coming through Alison, and I was kept like, well, is it this? Alison would say, well, kind of, or is it this? So the bit I actually remember is when we were together and I got my first sense of, oh, this is what it's about. It's something different. So even when you say it's very close to what we would call pastoral care, you are right. But in a UK context, pastoral care actually goes somewhere slightly different out of where I would want to go. So it comes back to two key things for me. One, it moved between things we already had and almost advanced, did something not just different, but that took from a number of things that were already going on. And if I can be as bold, did something better, did something that connected more with people and had better outcomes. So we almost have to invent a new name for it.
We really struggled, didn't we? That was one
We
of the biggest
really struggled.
problems with, it's not really tutoring
It's not.
as we hear that in England, and it's not really coaching, and it's not really mentoring, but it's some combination of all three. Yeah.
And the key thing in that for us was it was none of these things, but it met a need that wasn't being met. And I think so it wasn't any of those things, but what it was more powerful than any one of those things. And in a UK context, it's actually hitting a need that people are starting to articulate that no one else is hitting. And so our biggest thing is how do we communicate something that we haven't quite got a word for that is new for people so we can't refer them to something and you only really get to understand it at least halfway through your training. That's our conundrum.
Yeah, although when we explain it now to students, we've tended to use the word coaching because that suggests to them something different from what they've had before. Yeah, it's really
Really
tricky.
funny.
Coaching goes towards this pastoral care, let's say, or this
Mhm.
personal development thing. Whereas in Poland, I think we tend to understand tutoring as this academic support.
Mm.
And
Mm.
now the funny thing is that before we connected here, I asked a few large language models, not to mention AI, right? But ChatGPT 5.1, Perplexity, Gemini 3.0, Claude, one more, I can't remember. And I asked them to define tutoring in academic context. And none of these tools, none of these models were able to actually grasp what we are
Mm.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is, I mean, there's more to it. That what we are actually offering here in this meeting here, in this webinar, is we are offering to the people who have joined us guiding students in English, which means that maybe some of them, or maybe most of them, or maybe all of them, will have international students with them.
Mm.
And I have this experience now. I'm working with an Erasmus student from Spain, and Alvaro is I mean, in every tutoring session, he has to comment upon the way we work together. And he
Yes.
always stops me and he observes. And that's phenomenal because my Polish students don't do that. So I think that the medium of English does also the trick and contributes a lot to the quality of the service.
Mm.
Obviously, it will be very difficult for you, Alison, and for you, Robin, to relate to it because you're both natives in that language. But do you think that foreign students, when they come to Cambridge, and you've had experience of working with foreign students, do you think they somehow uh, respond to how you treat students, to this sort of like Anglo-Saxon way of working with students? Because tutoring, in fact, whatever you call it, is an Anglo-Saxon thing originally. So, what do you think?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think a number of our international students take some like considerable number of weeks to
Mm,
be able to ask the questions because I think they're often just a bit confused by the
mm,
system when they come.
mm,
And it takes a while for them to gain confidence that they can ask questions and for them to articulate what their own experience of education has been
mm,
and to then be able to relax into a very different way of
mm,
teaching and learning, I guess,
mm,
would be
mm,
my yeah. Robin, what would you say?
Oh my goodness, definitely. And we could talk globally now. And
mm,
so there are um parts of the globe that we know, um, for good and ill, have been influenced by an English or a European education system, and they've taken
Mm,
that on board. And often some of our students from Asia um, or other countries, African countries, they might come through and they'd have an understanding of an English education system that they may have actually influenced their own, which is really rigid, and they can be shocked at this part that Alison's talking about and which this coaching or tutoring um, fits in with, which is being interested in the person in front of you, being interested in the learner, wanting to hear the learner's voice. It can take them a long time. The other thing that happens, though, of course, this isn't just an English phenomenon, is it? And so I'm not surprised that you have a Spanish student who immediately is, I want to engage with you as an individual. We're going to be peers in this, and I want to tell you about my life. And so I think if you're looking to tutor international students, then this works on a number of levels. This works because you will find some international students, especially English ones, but perhaps from other European countries as well, who will just expect that you're going to engage with them in this way, that they're going to be able to reflect on your teaching. And then you'll have another set of students who will think that the model they have been taught themselves is, if you like, the English model, and it's not. And so there's something about what people expect and what people want. I think this coaching feeds into it. There's so many political and cultural background moves in what I've just said there, and I don't want to be presumptuous or offend anyone, but there is something about the English education system which is held up and is copied. And actually, if you're going to have international students who have been influenced by that, who are wanting that, then this is where the English education system, that elite system is, or the elite bit of it, is going. So if you talk to Cambridge University, their biggest, Alison wants to put this into Cambridge supervision because she can see that that's the next place it's going to go. So in a way, I'm not surprised that you have an Erasmus student who's acting in that way. And also, I think there is something about the coaching that is done here which will give people something more and something that will be looked for by the student.
It's an adjustment though, isn't it, Robin? Because
Yeah.
I think a number of students will still want to be fed, and they will want to, just here are my hands, fill them up for me. And
Fast
actually
food.
that active learning that is required takes so much more effort. And if you've grown up in a system where you're just a passive learner, then that is really difficult as well. But Greg, I was going to ask you about one of the main differences is that where you are in Gdansk, your academic tutoring is extracurricular or supracurricular, if you like. That's right, isn't it? And whereas for us, the supervisions are part of the course, unless it's additional support for second language or whatever.
And I think, Alison, that's a blessing because that is you and Robin, what you contributed to that course was this art of academic debates. And actually, I think, I'm talking about my own experience of working with you. If it hadn't been for this experience back then in Cambridge, I wouldn't have then realized how important it is to teach students how to understand what they hear from the tutors or teachers, how important it is for them uh, to actually express themselves, and how natural it is for you in your culture, in your academic or educational culture, to have students actually, or to have the students their say. I mean, have someone say, right? They can argue things, right? And I remember Thomas once said that, well, his students have no problems, so that the people he works with, right? They have no problems with just giving voice to what they think, which means that what the Cambridge people contribute to this course, to this idea of tutoring, is this art of giving voice to what you actually think, what you feel, mm, and giving it or making it a skill actually, which I think a lot of Polish students lack. Now that we have so many Polish academics here, I want to make it a very, very, very strong point that what this, let's say, international school of tutors stresses is this element of debate, of asking questions, the Socratic element, right? The dialogical element, what you mentioned, Buber's idea or Bakhtin's idea of dialogicality, right? So I think that um, whereas in Poland, when we teach how to tutor students, we focus on those academic skills, maybe a bit of those coaching skills. There is a different shade of tutoring when you introduce this English touch to it, this Anglo-Saxon touch to it, which is actually the art of debate.
That's so interesting.
Mm.
I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I think I probably interrupted you when you were teaching, probably more than you were used to.
That was Alison, part of fun.
Yeah,
And that's what I would expect my students to. I mean,
yeah,
everybody would like to be interrupted by its students, right? Sorry, I would like to say something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's exactly what I think we want to take students to. I mean, to the
Mm,
place where they feel on a par with the tutors, with the
mm,
teachers.
mm.
Not in that they know as much as they do, but in that they feel equal to them, let's say, in terms of like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. And interestingly, that's really come out more in my own class teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for those of you on here wondering whether, training in this more one-to-one style is also
Mm,
helpful for your class teaching,
mm,
it absolutely is transformative.
yeah.
So this week I teach Hebrew and I've got about 15 students in the class. And when I walked in,
Mm,
I was just setting up. I have a hybrid class, so I have some people in the room, some people on Zoom.
mm,
And it usually takes about 5 minutes to set up. And in the meantime, one of the class had created a pile of books and some little cutout shapes of different vocabulary that we had been learning.
mm.
And we had just learnt prepositions. So he would put this little picture of a horse on top of the book and then asking the class to say this in Hebrew. And when I walked in, I said, all right, Matt. And he said, yeah, I'm just warming people up for you.
Okay, right. A leader.
So that was amazing. So they've started just
Ah,
teaching themselves,
yeah, yeah,
and enjoying like really playfully as well.
yeah,
Really
yeah.
fun.
There's another way that it's impacted as well, because I think since we've done that, because Alison and I both did it, Alison and I have done much more co-teaching
Mm.
since then. And I don't know if this is something other people have experience of or if other people would do, but that's certainly another thing. It's kind of it's one of those examples of the outcomes from doing it are just surprising. If you like the transferable part of training, to be an academic tutor is just sometimes surprising. One of the things that we found is it just has aided us to do co-teaching, and then that's enabled creativity within the classroom because there's two of you, and yeah,
And
all sorts of things.
a lot more reflection on our teaching practice as well because of
Yeah.
co-teaching. But the
Mm.
students love watching us argue too.
Oh,
It's a great way to model. Yeah,
right, right.
really
Okay.
interesting.
David, you said that we had about 40 minutes to talk. Well, does it
Yes,
mean that we should stop at this point?
as you would like. I think, do you want to move to Q&A?
Well, we might try. We'll see if there are
Okay.
any Qs, so that there are any As
Okay, just give me a
going
second.
following that.
Mm,
So far, I can't see too many Qs. Actually, I can't see any of the Qs, and just highs and hellos.
Okay, so thank you for this conversation. And now let's give our participants some space to engage in the discussion. And please, if you want to ask a question, use your hand, raise your hand using the icon. And now you should be able to unmute your microphone. So we'll call your name, and then you can unmute your microphone and engage in discussion.
Or please do write your question in the chat if you would rather not speak.
Or a chat section, yes.
And this is not to assess your English, right? It's just to discuss the thing. And again, I'm addressing my Polish colleagues. This program, the program that we're talking about, that is the tutoring program, is a little bit different. I would say very little bit different from what we do in Poland for Polish, typically Polish environment, academic environment. It's much broader. It's extended, and as you heard, it goes towards this pastoral coaching elements, which blend nicely with those academic elements. And probably you would like to hear more from Alison and Robin about their view of this program and their experience because they've gone through it as prospect tutors, Collegium Wrocławiense tutors. So, well, tell us, what would you like to know? There's Anna.
Yes, Anna, please go ahead.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Please forgive me. I'm not showing my face. I had a little face surgery. You don't want to see it.
Well, we
But
can see your photograph, Anya.
excuse me?
We can see your photo. That's okay.
Yeah, it's the photo only. I'm an academic teacher. I work at Adam Mickiewicz University. I have graduated from the tutoring program. I'm also a certified coach. And there's something called coachability index. So it means there are some people who are more coachable, and probably there are some students who are more tutor or whatever there is the ending. And my question is, you have some time to do the program with the student, right? And I believe the beginning point is not the same for all students, and how you handle the students that you feel that they need more time to develop everything. Like it doesn't matter if well-being or academic skills.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really helpful question. I suppose it depends again in what context you're offering the sessions and whether you've got a limit on them. So in the Cambridge system, you just have 6 supervisions and that's it. Now, if somebody is really struggling, you might then be able to write to their college and say, would you consider, an additional 2 sessions for this person because I think they really need more support, or you might send them to somebody else for additional support. In the sessions that we're responsible for in our own college, where we can say, usually there's a sort of a financial constraint of some point, of some kind, but we have, certainly in the case of 1 or 2 students, continued coaching with them throughout a whole academic year because they just needed it, and that's really a decision on the part of the people who hold the purse strings in your college, as to what's beneficial for the student. Because you're right, some people come, and part of this we discuss in the course, the growth mindset or fixed mindset, and some students do just take longer to adjust both to the style and to the content and to taking things on board and working with you. It might also be that the personality matching is wrong, and maybe they just need to find a different person.
Yeah, thank you very much. So they do it, you do it with your students only once during the whole program? Like if they have bachelor program, they attend the tutoring program for half a year only during 4 years of studying or 3 years of studying?
So in the Cambridge Tripos, so the undergraduate degree is 3 years long, and each year has a discrete number of modules or papers, and at the end of each year, there's a set of exams. So in 1 year course of study, you only have 6 hours with them as a course supervisor. And then the same in the second year, and then the same again in the third year. So if you might well be teaching the same student all the way through, and then you would see them 3 times for 6 sessions each. And then you begin to build up a relationship and rapport with them. But otherwise, yeah, so if they're just taking one of your modules, then you might only see them once for 6 weeks.
I think
Okay, thank you. No, I understand.
I was just going to say as well, I think there's something interesting about where in your context tutoring is placed. So as Alison was explaining, within the Cambridge system, if we were going to place it within the supervision that already exists, then that would follow what Alison says. But she also alluded to in another context we work in, we actually situate it more in the support of the student bit that sits outside of that formal supervision. And in that, we had a lot more freedom. And it was in that place that we were able to stay with people for a whole year. So there's something about, because the academic tutoring can sit in different spaces, I think it's sometimes working out the best place to put it in your context.
Mm.
Greg, you're on mute. Anya, taking your question a bit further, you mentioned coachability or tutorability. And I would like develop your question, Anya, by asking Alison and Robin to, or maybe not to what extent, but to what needs or what needs does tutoring in your understanding of tutoring cater for in terms of what students actually need? I mean, students come to a university to a new place, right? Then they stay there for a couple of years. Now, where do you see tutoring as an answer to some of their needs?
Mm. Um, I don't think that we've yet come across a student situation where coaching hasn't helped. In other
Mm,
words, I think in every situation that we've had where a student has needed or wanted additional support, then that has been helpful in some way. And that has been everything from personal organization to confidence to finding your academic voice to, I don't know, Robin, you probably think of some other things, but I mean it's not, I think I've been surprised how varied it has been. And for some people, I mean it's affected my PhD supervisions as well, the way that I've approached those. And perhaps maybe taking a bit more of PhD style academic tutoring further down into undergraduate level, for the students who I think can cope with it, that level of independence.
This will be much more Alison's bag than mine, but I mean, it is also worth reiterating that this benefits those who are the most able as well.
Yeah.
There is something about this benefits everybody. This is a human thing. But certainly, I would just completely agree with Alison there. I mean, we have been asked to tutor people at the other end who have absolutely fallen out of the system and everything else has failed. And you go in and you think you don't overpromise, do you? So you say, yeah, I'll give it a go, but I'm no magician, so I'm not going to promise anything here. And just being shocked at the way that these are people who perhaps you would think wouldn't be teachable or wouldn't engage, but the tutoring dynamic, it's not easy, but the tutoring dynamic after a number of sessions, suddenly something arises and it's like a switch. You start addressing something that you could never have imagined beforehand, and suddenly their voice starts to come out, and you can go, "Oh, that's an academic voice just there." And they're like, "What?" And then you see their confidence grow, and you see them, and they transform. And so, yes, I would just reiterate what Alison said, and it also, like I say, made me think as well. This is also for people who are very able. It enables them to go even further,
Yeah.
and almost to cash in that ability, to cash in that potential.
You know what, Alison and Robin, what I heard in an answer to maybe Anya, I'm not sure to what extent it answers your question, but definitely does answer mine. That what tutoring does, especially with this Anglo-Saxon touch in it, it brings back humanity into teaching. That teaching becomes again the sort of ancient art. That is when Socrates, Aristotle, they worked with the students in peripatetic type of teaching. Maybe we do not always work with our students, but there is a bit of that. There is a bit of like this movement, metaphorically put, um, where we can see, as you said, Robin, people come with different issues or at a different stage of their personal development, of their education, with their experiences, even though they are young, and then they get actually what they want, what they need, and that's phenomenal. And just to conclude, neither you, Alison, nor you, Robin, with the exception of mine, are trained psychologists. You're academics, right? So what tutoring does, I mean, a tutoring program does, is it prepares all of us as teachers to carry this human factor to students by answering their needs. And you said, well, there's no student, Robin, as you said, who had not benefited from from tutoring or supervision, whatever we call it, right? More questions, please. Thank you, Anya.
Yes, you can also use chat section.
There's a question from Patrick, David, and there's one from Ula too. Patrick, you came first. Patrick, who should respond to the question? Who would you point as a person to answer? And then, Ula, you think about this question too. Who would you appoint as the person to answer?
I'm
Patrick,
so sorry. I missed that because my I got kicked off.
you haven't missed anything because we haven't actually voiced the question. Patrick wrote the question in the chat. Um,
Uh,
section. Can
so
you share a method, technique, or an event which you consider particularly powerful in your tutoring experience? And probably Patrick has Alison and Robin, right? So probably that's the sequence. Alison, can you see the question in the chat?
I
Um,
can't, I'm afraid,
you
because
can't. Okay. Pardon my English, Alison, but I'm sure you got used to my English. So, can you share a method, a technique, or an event which you can consider particularly powerful in your tutoring experience? Um, right.
Mm.
Method, technique, event. Powerful.
Uh,
Versions of Socratic questioning, definitely.
yes.
Sorry, Alison.
Yes, no, questions. Questions. Um, and I think the guiding principle of asking what and how primarily. I think the other thing that I have started doing more, usually at third year undergraduate level and at postgraduate level, is I have a flip chart of paper in my office and I hand them the pen and I ask them to talk me through the argument.
Pardon me, Alison. Let me testify to it. Yes, I've been there. I saw it. It's there. That's true. I've seen that. Sorry, Alison, to continue.
That's true. I think, and that's partly actually for my own brain. I find it easier to hold on to information when it's on a big piece of paper in front of me. But it's a nice way of democratizing the experience. So you're not always the one with the pen in your hand, and uh, I think for some people initially that's quite daunting, and they're afraid of making a mistake. But I've actually done it in PhD vivas as well. I've handed them the pen and I've said, I didn't quite follow your argument in chapter 3. Could you please walk us through it? Um, and and that's been really generative actually, for them as they process externally, and then other questions come in. And once it's on the board, in a sense, and this works really well for students who find it difficult to order their thoughts. If you just get them to use like a spider diagram, then they can see the ideas, and then I'll say, okay, which one of those needs to come first? Which question out of all of these do you need to answer first? And that
Yeah.
has unlocked a lot of difficulties.
Yeah, prioritization tools, they've been amazing, just like you're saying.
Mm.
helping students prioritize thought, helping them prioritize goals, helping them, as you'll know if you've done the original tutoring course. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Patrick, you have to comment either here, like saying it, or just making a comment whether your question has been answered. In the meantime, we've got a question from Ola. She writes, I've been struggling with the equipment since the beginning of the session, so I'll write. Okay, here's the question. In my view, tutoring, mentoring, coaching in Polish universities is still mostly a dream. Well, Ula, we have to talk about that. Okay. However, it's got a great potential to become a powerful weapon, inverted commas, in the prevention of dropout. Do you also struggle with dropout from your universities? Hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Cambridge and Oxford, however, have a much, much lower dropout rate than other universities. And that's partly because of the pastoral system. There's a broad network of support within colleges. In our theological college, similarly, we're very much community oriented, and so it's much more difficult for a student to drop out. But across the UK, it's I don't know what the percentage of dropout is, but it is high, and it's a lot higher in universities that don't rank so highly in terms of academic performance. But it's also much higher among, so it's a socio-economic thing as well. Students from state schools, students from lower socio-economic backgrounds, students with mental health issues all tend to have a higher dropout rate. And I do think that tutoring, certainly in our context, has made or has the potential to make a significant difference for helping students to stay and to stay engaged.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I'd just like to say, let's do it together. Let's do it in the UK. Let's do it in Poland because, yeah, I'm convinced this is one of the answers to the dropout rates in both our countries and in other countries, and is a major motivation for me to be involved. So yeah, my thing would be let's do this together. Let's tackle that together.
Yeah, let me add to it. I'm now doing a project within NAVA, and my Polish colleagues there know what I'm talking about. The NAVA project about introducing peer tutoring into universities across Europe, and we have mentors from Holland, Rick Huizinga from Groningen. Yeah, that's the name. And what Rick told us was exactly, Alison, what you said. What you said, Robin, let's do it together, that we need this sort of like pan-European initiative
Yeah.
to address this. But he didn't call it, he didn't refer to it as dropout. He referred to it as like as a crisis of understanding why universities are there. And those young people, they just don't know, and they have every right not to know, but they want to know. So my idea of it and my understanding of it is that nothing has changed. What has changed, however, within this nothing, is that those young people who come to universities, they want to know. In the past, and I'm just considering myself, I didn't ask any questions. I just took it for granted. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is like there's Lyceum and there is the university. So you get your A levels, you do your A levels, your Matura exams, and then you go to university. And now my daughter or her colleagues, they ask questions. Now, what are universities for? And I think that tutoring partly answers that question.
It's really
Um,
interesting.
and it doesn't answer that question in this encyclopedic way. It answers that question in this processual way. That is, okay, let's talk, let's sit down, let's do something, Alison, as you said, right? On flip chart. Let's go and and experience things. And that's what how I understand tutoring as an answer to this dropout
Mm,
rate. Sadly, tutoring is, I would say, it's very like, how to put it? I don't know, but it's like pointillism, right? In this painting technique, you have just points. You cannot just spill paint all over, right? So it works towards individuals. It doesn't work for masses. And so that's the restraint, I would say, or the constraint. I don't, I just don't know
mm.
how to say. But I'm just giving this as a comment.
Although I think, I mean, we've seen in my department in the university, so in the divinity faculty.
Mm,
So this is for theology, philosophy of religion, and religious studies. There's a peer mentoring group that has just been initiated by students themselves.
mm, mm,
And this has been by more senior female students providing mentoring for younger female students, precisely because in theology and religious studies, there's a massive dropout in between undergraduate and postgraduate studies.
mm,
So
mm,
it's perceived to be a male space at
mm,
postgraduate level. And by the time you reach professorial level, the gender imbalance is really significant. And I found that fascinating that they have a waiting list of undergraduate students wanting to be peer mentored by older female students. And
mm,
that's, I think, peer mentoring, although it needs a lot of support to be done well, is one way in which colleges and universities can experience the benefits of these kinds of interventions on a much broader scale. But it does depend on willing volunteers and on somebody to train the volunteers.
mm.
And I was fascinated that one of the people we trained, Hannah, you might remember, she
Yeah.
was part of that, and she was talking about how the skills she learned here transformed how she peer mentored other people. So there's also a potential here of training up people to do peer mentoring.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely the skills here, I think, would be invaluable within a peer mentoring space.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hannah certainly found that in that very space that Alison's just shared with us.
Uh, uh, Glad you mentioned Hannah. She was one of those who actually stressed this element of tutoring, the mentoring part.
Mm.
But I'm glad, Alison and Robin, that you mentioned peer tutoring, because there is also a question from Agnieszka, and I think for the moment, the way I understand David's signals, let's just briefly answer Agnieszka's question, which is my university offers various forms of student support, including tutoring and mentoring. However, students are often reluctant to join the program. How can you encourage students to become a tutee? And I
Mm.
understand like tutee and peer tutoring program.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Could you just clarify whether this is this academic? Is it holistic? Is it student support in terms of outside of the curriculum?
Mm. Let's see what Agnieszka replies to that question. I can't see anything for the moment. Agnieszka, if you're still there, would you be able to answer the question either by writing? Okay, it's outside
Outside.
the curriculum, right? We have trained
Okay,
tutors. Yeah.
okay. And is that for additional academic subjects or is that for academic support?
Mhm. Let's wait for the reply.
It's a really interesting question because I think that there are two
Mhm.
quite distinct reasons why somebody might not be opting for additional curricular activities,
Mhm.
namely that they might feel full already and not want to do any additional studying.
Yeah.
I think if it's for student support, I wonder whether there would be shame involved. that they would feel that they needed support and don't want to ask for support, or whether it feels again like an additional commitment or burden. I know that for our students, most of them are very, very eager to take up the opportunity of more support, but some of them actually then do struggle to make time for those sessions. So that can be really difficult.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I think well that answer should do, because Agnieszka has not given us any more detail. Agnieszka, anyway, thank you for the question, because now we come to we get to a different level of tutoring. There's tutoring those who are, well, Agnieszka has just written it's academic support mainly, but can be student support too, right? Right, academic and student support. So more or less what you said, Alison, I
Yeah,
understand.
I think I would want to ask some more questions more
Mm,
broadly about the setup and about the relationship between tutors and students at your institution. That can have
mm,
a huge influence on how
mm,
students might feel about approaching this. Um,
In the
yeah,
meantime,
I'd
Lasagna,
love to have a longer conversation about it.
yeah, in the meantime, Lasagna, who raised her hand and she wants to ask a
Yeah,
question.
yes, because I would like, I think I understand Agnieszka's question. At my faculty, we have something like a center where we help our students learn a language, and it's about techniques and effective language learning, and they can get the support. And what we have been noticing for I don't know, maybe 7 years, is that at the beginning we had a lot of students who wanted to come and get support, discuss the issues. And after pandemia, we see that there are fewer and fewer of them. And it doesn't mean that they don't need the help. The people who come are rather, they have some mental issues, and
Mm,
they expect us to help with their depression uh, or other struggles, and that's fine. And we try to help as we can, but we can see that there's a dropout. They sometimes they say it's difficult for them to study, but they don't want to come. And we had from the beginning the idea that we don't push them to come because it must be their initiative. So they need they need to want to find the help. But now we don't know if we don't want to do it compulsory, because sometimes maybe they don't know they need the help. I don't know. It's interesting, and I think it's Gen Z's transition a little bit, that they struggle, but they want to be in the pain, or maybe as you said, Alison, they are afraid to come. Maybe that's the factor also. So they are ashamed a little bit. And I think I've got the same as what Agnieszka's wrote, so that's why I wanted to share the struggle. Because you have
Thank you.
compulsory, right, Alison? For you, it's compulsory, so it's connected to the program. No, okay.
In Cambridge University, yes, the supervisions are mandatory, and they're the only bit of the degree that are mandatory. So lectures are optional. The supervisions you have to attend, and the students are actually fined. They actually have to pay money if they miss a supervision without having given notice. So it's taken very, very seriously. Um, in our college where we work, the tutoring is optional, although we can heavily recommend somebody to do that. But Robin, it looked like
yeah.
you had some
I,
thoughts
I
on that.
I wonder if this is another webinar because it takes some unpacking, and so my answer is going to, by definition, be a little bit superficial because, as Alison was saying before, it would take a bit of unpacking because there's so many different questions we'd want to ask about how it works. But if I make a number of assumptions and you allow me to make some assumptions, just so I can make this point, really, there is something about the classic educational support that students got, they didn't find useful. And so they stopped going. That isn't to say that what you're offering isn't useful. I am definitely not saying that. But within my context and the students who came for academic tutoring, they had tried everything else. And because it didn't have that integrated, yes, absolutely doing your best. I get that completely, and this is not a critique, I promise. But because the academic tutoring had a holistic aspect to it, which was goal orientated, that seemed to work. And I've been involved in trying other things, and so I know that world very well. Where you put something on, it's fantastic, it's really good support, and people stop turning up. It was one of the surprises I found with academic coaching, in that the combination of they set the goal, they talk about where they want to go, and it might not even be the thing that you think they need to start with, which is very, very anxious inducing, anxiety inducing. But it means that they go with it because it's their goal. They've got that intrinsic motivation. And then it starts to work for them. And in starting to work, what we then found is they then told everybody else, go and talk to Alison, go and talk to Robin. They even told, the way it works in our current situation is they get sent by some other people. And so they went back to those people and said, if you're going to send anyone else to these colleges, you have to tell them to connect with Robin and Alison. And that's not because we're better or anything like that. I've tried, I've done the other stuff and I still do, and people stop coming. But I think it was something to do with the academic coaching that had the holistic and the goal orientated. And please hear me, I'm not critiquing anyone's practice. I'm just assuming it's fantastic. This is about why don't students come, and it's about the students.
I think, I mean, Anya's point that, this is the post-COVID generation. There has been a lot of trauma and disruption to their education, to their learning. And I think that can't have helped in how they relate to teaching and learning. But I also think that more broadly, I mean, across Europe, across North America, there's just unprecedented levels of mental health problems in student age students. And that is something that, we need to try and tackle together somehow. And I'm not convinced that the numbers of mental health problems have changed significantly. I think there were plenty of students when I was at college who had mental health issues, but nobody talked about it and nobody sought help. So I think the current generation is just so much more open about the problems they're having, which is intriguing.
No, just to connect these and let David have his say, because he's also anxious to say something. Connecting, I listen what you said, right? That this let's say element of care again, the pastoral element, and I do like this expression, the post-COVID generation, rather than calling them the X or the Z or the alpha or the whatever, right? The beta, as post-COVID generation. That's one thing. The other thing is, Robin, what you said, word of mouth. That's how they choose the tutors. That's why they actually go. And my two tutees, the Spanish student, that is the Erasmus student, and one Polish student, they are both, let's say, the result of word of mouth. They heard a recommendation, like go and ask, and that nicely relates to just to land on this page to what Agnieszka wrote. She said she writes tutors profiles are on the website for students. Students may or may not know a tutor. They will know a tutor or that tutor if the tutor asks for recommendations. So that's also part of our job to ask for recommendations. Let's be active as tutors. David.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Grzegorz. I will just share my screen. You should be able to see my screen. Grzegorz, if you could let me know if it's visible. Okay. Okay, so we meet with you today because we wanted to present our Cambridge School of Tutors program. And after a presentation, there will be second Q&A round, so we can get back to those questions that you have. And this is program which we prepared with Westminster College, with Alison and Robin, allowing you to learn tutoring in an international setting at a place where it actually was created. And the program comprises of three sessions in a hybrid form. First one is in Wrocław with Grzegorz, 8 teaching hours on each day. Second, it is an online session, 1 day with Grzegorz and another one with Alison. And third one, the most probably interesting one, takes place in Cambridge, 3 days with Alison and Robin, 8 teaching hours on each day.
David,
And
may I just butt in? And it's worth every penny. That kind of experience. Sorry.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Grzegorz. And program. So I don't want to go into details because we are behind the schedule, but also tomorrow we'll send you brochure describing program in details. And this is a standard program. So if you have no knowledge about tutoring, after that program, you will go from basics to a level at which you are able to run tutorial meetings on your own. And it is similar to our program in Poland, Szkoła Tutorów. But I think even if you completed Szkoła Tutorów, it still should have a lot of value for you because it's in English, in international setting, and with Alison, with Robin, and they normally don't work with us. They have, although they follow the same program, but they have different background, and they present everything with a bit different approach. So during that program, you will learn basic of tutoring, planning the first meeting, dialogical learning and teaching. So what we talk about today, the art of essay, elements of positive psychology in tutoring, working with student strengths, how to use problem-based learning and case study methods, giving feedback, and how to actually get started as a tutor. And talking a little bit about the setting. So as I mentioned, the last session is probably the most interesting one. It takes place in Cambridge, exactly in Westminster College building. And here you can see some of the classes in which sessions might take place. So it's not only teaching experience, but also life experience and great adventure. You can walk around the walls of those historic buildings. And location is also quite close to a lot of historic landmarks. For example, a tree under which Isaac Newton have discovered gravity. And price and cost. So the standard price for the program is 9,900 złotych. And majority of our graduate, they use funding from the university or school. We also accept installments. And because we are coming to Christmas season and we want to also appreciate your participation in the webinar, we have a discount for those of you who are here today and for those of you who registered for the webinar. So there will be a quite significant discount, but we want to create a moment of anticipation, and with an email tomorrow, you will receive information about the discount, how to use it, but it's quite significantly reducing cost and allowing you to take part. And registration for the program is until 26th of January. And it's also important to mention what's included and what's not included in the price. So not included is accommodation in Wrocław and Cambridge, as well as traveling. So you have to take that in mind. We do provide obviously care of our trainers, 64-hour program, textbooks in English, and snacks, coffee in Wrocław, and snacks, coffee, and lunch on each day in Cambridge. And for whom is it useful? It could be useful, interesting for English teachers, academic teachers working with foreign students, people interested in multicultural aspects of teaching, tutors who wants to enlarge their experience, and everyone interested in more individual approach to teaching. As a part of a course, we also would like to offer some additional activities to make it more interesting. Those activities are after class hours and are not obligatory and are extra paid, but not very expensive. And those could be punting on the River Cam, which is a way of sailing or rowing a boat like a gondola in Venice, a guided tour, guest lecture, visiting botanical garden, visiting museum, and activities suggested by participants. And because first session takes place in Wrocław at our company, we want to meet with participants and ask what they are interested in so that we can organize those activities. We plan to do one activity on Friday, one on Saturday, and some of them, like guided tour or guest lecture, should be for free. Others are in the price of about 15-20 pounds per person, so not very expensive. And based on who we have on the course, we can decide who we invite, for example, for a guest lecture. If we have people interested in biology, we might try to invite academic teacher from Cambridge who specializes in this area. Yeah, and that's about that. So thank you for listening to the presentation. And now we have time. We are a bit behind schedule, but I think we can do a second round of Q&A. So if you have any questions about program, or if you want to ask Grzegorz, Alison, and Robin, please go ahead.
We were just having a little conversation in chat.
There's private talk.
I'm like, yes, I get that. I get that. There are some people just won't listen. They don't believe in it, and they can't see the value. I'd love for us all to explore how we can talk about it, how we can share the stories. I don't know, but yeah, we share the same issues, so we'd love to work with people on how to do some of that stuff that's been coming up in chat.
Robin, that reminds me of my experience going to Cambridge, and it's not about tutoring. I'm talking to my Polish colleagues. It's not about learning how to be a tutor. Since you're here, you probably know what tutoring is all about. It is about this new experience, this enriching experience of going there to the source of well, of this human-oriented education. First thing, second thing, being immersed in this Anglo-Saxon culture is a pleasure on its own, but then also saturating yourself with the spirit of what Westminster College offers, and also the city of Cambridge. Sorry, the town or the city. Is it a city or a town? I've always had problems with that. There's a cathedral, so it must be a city.
Officially, it's a city,
It's
but
a
it
city.
has no cathedral.
There's no cathedral. So
No.
what's this that we visited then? It's not a
King's
cathedral.
King's
King's
College.
College Chapel.
It's a college chapel.
My Polish colleagues, that looks like Notre Dame, and it's still a chapel by British standards. That tells us something about the experience it which may be part of your experience. Not trying to convince you to become tutors. We're trying to tell you that what we get, what we become as teachers, as educators, will then somehow pro. Let me find the word, Alison, Robin. Propagate will then
Generate,
generate, will then
develop,
develop right
overflow.
in our students, right? So they will actually bask in this kind of energy that we bring in. And obviously you don't have to go to Cambridge to do that, but if you do, right, you will be twice as effective or twice as convincing because you've been there. I'm just talking about my own experience, and then I'm glad I've had this experience, and I wish each Polish tutor, not only Polish, each European tutor could have this experience uh, of selling or taking calls to Newcastle. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think just to reassure everyone, we have learned so much. We've learned so much from our Polish colleagues and from our participants. And
Yeah.
there's such a joy in the exchange of knowledge, wisdom, experience in the room. So yeah, we hope that you can come and join us.
Yeah.
I suppose you know, we're in this room because we believe in something. And I guess we have something that's a bit lacking. All of us in this room now have something that's a little bit lacking in globally at this point, which is a vision and hope. And so in that sense, I think underneath it all, it is something about the connections we make, the motivation we provide to one another, the common vision, even if it's broad and needs to be landed in different contexts, it's something hopeful. And I just think that is rare. And yeah, that's definitely what motivates me to continue to be involved in, because all our lives are very, very busy. And we have to prioritize. Why do we prioritize this bit? Because there's a vision and it's hopeful. And I just think the world needs that.
And what a chance to leave private hotspots, right? And then go somewhere else to see what things are like there. Okay.
Mm.
David, is it you or is it me who should like round things off and then like wrap things up?
I can wrap things up. So you would like to finish, or we wait for more questions?
As Eva actually put it in the chat box, great program. I hope my university will let me. I think a lot depends on university funding.
Yeah.
David, I'm leaving it to you. You're you're the one who can maybe help our potential participants to find funding. My personal thanks to you, Alison, and to you, Robin. It was such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And I'm not treating this in commercial terms, not at all. Rather, another opportunity to develop our friendship. And I'm not afraid to call it that way. So thank you very much indeed. That was a great evening for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming along, even if it's just to hear the vision.
Yes, I also would like to thank you, Grzegorz, Alison, Robin, for taking time from your busy schedules, and everyone who is on the webinar with us today. I hope you learned something and that you had fun. And tomorrow morning, I will send you brochure with describing program with discount and how to use it. So thank you again for being with us here today.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.